Hi, welcome. Today I will teach you how to attack with d4. So most attacking players want to attack and they start with d4. But you, a d4 player, you're thinking, oh, I'm so sad because everyone attacks with d4 and it's not possible to attack with d4. Yes, my friend, you're on the correct place because I will teach you how to attack with violence. Your opponents will cry in the end of the games. And yes, you will want to be here until the end because every variations will be violent. Every variations will lead on victories or superior positions for white. So let's go. Let's go to our first variation. And when we talk about Trompowsky, well, we are talking about d4, knight f6, the most common way of answering this move. And after bishop g5, our argument is that we want to exchange the bishop for the knight. This has been created by the Brazilian champion Otávio Trompowsky. So he has been champion in 1939. And you're seeing two percentages. The first one are the results according to the chess base. And the second one are the results according to the opening tree. Why are they different? Simple. Because the chess base analysis are based on over-the-board games. And the opening tree, the second column, is based on online games too. So we will see first the ideas with d5, then knight e4, next e6, kind of French related defense, c5, and finally g6. So let's go to our first variation. And when we talk about the Trompowsky, the idea is quite simple. Black can start playing d5 to do a kind of solid way of continuing against the Trompowsky. For me, I like a lot to play the Trompowsky because it's an attacking setup, and it isn't risky to play this setup because you can play for the endgame too. And normally the d4 players like to play for the endgame. So after d4, I will recommend, of course, to exchange the bishop for the knight. And here we have two different ways of answering by the black player. He can take with g6 or with e6. By my experience, the most common answer is just pawn takes. And here we will need to play a solid position. We don't have a gambit-like or pawn storms, because this is the most solid way of answering for black, but all the other variants are violent. So here I will recommend to put all your pawns on black squares. Why is that? We want to do that to compensate the fact that we exchanged the black square bishop. And of course, what are the advantage of exchanging this bishop? Is that we have broken the pawn structure of our opponent because the black has doubled pawns on the f file. So for me, probably the most common way of continuing for black is just to castle. And we will want to put the bishop on g2. We have several different ways of playing that, but in my opinion, this is the easiest one and you won't have any problems. Because after c6, in my opinion, it's common to close the diagonal. And now you don't want to play knight to f3, but knight to e2. Why is that? Simple. I enjoy a lot to play with h4 and knight f4. If bishop takes, we will take always on the direction of the center. Why is that? Because we will have more potential to create damages and maintain the central control. So after, for example, rook e8, I think makes sense because this is an open file, because doesn't exist any black pawns. We will continue with knight to d2 with one strategic idea. We want to play c4. Why is that? Because we want to open the diagonal, because we have a bishop on g2, and opening this diagonal, we will create difficulties, problems to the black's player. So after bishop g4 probably is the best move for black. We will continue with c4, and just to show, pawn takes, castle first is important, because if you don't castle, if you take with the knight, he will give check on b4, and you don't need to be worried about, because b5 is just too weird. We have a4 and we are threatening to take on b5. So this is complicated for black. In my opinion, the black's player don't want to play this kind of stuff. An alternative is knight to d7, and after knight takes, in my opinion, we have always an equal position, and we will create always problems to the black's player. So in my opinion, this is interesting and easy to play. And yes, we are playing against a pair of bishops, but look at this bishop, doesn't have any potential. And even if the bishop played on the other direction, for example to b8, yeah, the bishop is closing the rook, so it's always difficult to play, and we can play the same way with any problems. About the other hypothesis, if bishop takes g6, g takes, sorry, we can continue the same way, but here be careful, because the black will play e5, and this is the most aggressive approach for black, but you don't need to be worried about. We will continue with knight f3, and if bishop plays to g4, we will continue with h3. What is the idea? Of course, if bishop takes, queen takes, we don't have any problem, and the black structure is completely broken. And I'm not talking about the fact that this king cannot castle kingside. It's too risky. And about bishop to h5, we will continue with bishop, and this game is too simple for white. For example, this kind of stuff, we will win material, so it's not good. And even if black tries another approach, probably c6 to prevent queen to b5, we can continue normally with c4. I like, because the pawn cannot take, we are threatening lots of different stuff. And again, rook to b8, in my opinion, isn't good, because we are threatening exactly the same. For example, after queen, knight c3, and if queen takes, knight takes, we are threatening to give this double. So in my opinion, this is a simple game for white, and for this reason I recommend you just to take and play positional. So talking about the next line, well, first we will talk about this. Why don't you like me? I'm a great person. And we have still, yes, it's true, 1 month after, we have still 87% of the viewers that isn't subscribed. So I need your help, because the goal of this channel is to help you to improve. And to do that, I need to have your feedback. I need your help. So please subscribe. Sorry, my English. Subscribe, push the like button, and notifications on. If you want to make any critiques, or if you have any suggestion, you can always put on the comments or talk with me by chess.com. My nickname, you already know what is dark_attack. So let's continue with our video. And well, the next variant is this one, knight to e4. And here we will start to attack with everything we have, with violence. And I will defend the Raptor, the Velociraptor. So we will continue with h4. I already played that several times on the internet, and even won players of 28 hundreds of rating. So this is still too strong in my opinion, because for black it's very difficult to play knight takes bishop, and this happens because after pawn takes, imagine, exists, of course, this is a playable position for black, but in my opinion, it's better not to play this for black, because after, for example, d5, probably it's one approach. We will continue with e3 because we want to play bishop to d3, and this is slightly superior for black because we are doing a gambit, but you don't need to be worried because the fish says 0.2 or 0.3, so I think this doesn't have any problem. So after, for example, bishop to e7, this is a common mistake, you're already won. This is the principal argument of the Raptor. We will play g6. Beautiful stuff. Because, of course, the h-pawn doesn't want to take, or else, yeah, this will win everything. So the only hypothesis is to take with the f-pawn. And after rook 6, this king is completely open, so we will win this game because bishop takes on g6, it's a check, and after that we will take the rook. So this is a superior position for white, so we don't need to see more. So this is too strong. About alternatives, okay, we have different approaches. For example, black can continue with g6, and after g6 we can continue with e3. In my opinion, is always the simplest way of continuing that with white. And after bishop g7, bishop e3, castle, I like queen to g4 directly. Why is that? Because, for example, d5 creates a difficult game for black again, because we can continue with queen h4, and we are threatening to give checkmate in one move. I think probably they will play or this or that, but h6 probably will be most played, and after pawn takes, the queen cannot exchange yet, the bishop needs to go to f6 or h8. I think probably bishop f6 will happen, and okay, we can play queen to f4, queen to g3, queen to h2. We can do whatever we want. If you want, you can try to advance the pawn too. The thing is that I'm defending this line. This is a slightly superior line for white, but I'm defending this line because we are winning by 1 point. So if you want to play for the win, yes, this is a good argument for white. We are winning right now, so of course, later we need to see what black will play, and we need to calculate and try to play for tactical moves or simply play positional. Castle queenside and continue the game with knight d2 and castle. Why not? So, in my opinion, this is interesting too. About alternatives where black doesn't exchange the knight for the bishop. Well, black can continue with, for example, knight the pawn to d5. Here, e3, c5 probably is one of the best ways of continuing for black, and we will continue with c3. Knight c, knight d, takes, and in my opinion, of course, this isn't easy, but the thing is that this isn't easy for white and black, because we will play for the center, and black will play for the center too. So if you put that on an engine, the engine will prefer the black's position and will give 0.4, but again, if you want to attack, you need to take risks, and 0.4, in my opinion, you're not taking too much risks. So, in my opinion, this is interesting for white. And yes, try out and tell me something later. So, continuing, third variation, we will see now the variation with e6. So, it's kind of a French way of continuing this approach, and I will defend the big center variation, so e4. And yes, let's play against the French. So after d5, here you can advance, but I will defend knight to d2. Sorry, my flu. Here, if pawn takes, you can take with the knight, and we are creating pressure to the knight on f6. So after, for example, queen d5, I don't believe too much players will continue with this move. Here we can take, and after pawn takes, of course, we can try to take, but this is difficult for white. So my suggestion is just to continue with bishop e3. Why is that? Because if you take, well, rook g8, and the thing is that black are improving his position. So for this reason, I prefer to play against the doubled pawns, and I think black will suffer a little bit in this position because, for example, if black plays like that, we will continue with knight e2, threatening to go with the knight to f4, with a very positional game again. But okay, normally black will continue with c5, and after c5, let's go e5. It looks like we will win material, but no, this is an illusion because black has h6, and we don't want to play this kind of stuff because black will be better after pawn takes, bishop takes. We haven't lost material, but the thing is that this pawn on g and the open file for the rook are I don't know, I'm paranoid with this kind of stuff. So we don't want to play this kind of stuff. But I will suggest you a very, very interesting way of creating problems to the black. So we will play bishop to h4, and after g5, probably this is the only move, we will play bishop g3. And what is the idea? Because of the fact that we played knight to d2, we are protecting with a piece the square on e4, and because of this reason it's not good to play knight to e4. I don't know, it's kind of weird because this pawn will fall. I can continue with pawn takes, and okay, after queen takes, rook takes, bishop takes. I don't enjoy very much this position for black, h4, and we are creating a lots of problems to black, and this pawn will fall always. One quick example, knight to e2 and knight to c3, for example. So for this reason, probably the black player won't be thinking in playing the knight to e4. Instead of that, he will play knight to d7, and our approach will be to play h4. And why is that so good? Well, in my opinion, this is very good because of the fact that the white's king will castle queenside, for example, and normally black wants to castle kingside. And yeah, this doesn't look very well because the advancing doesn't exist. And after g takes h, bishop takes, we are trying to take the queen. And the thing is that bishop e7 probably will happen. And we have a very, very, very nice way of creating pressure to the black's game. So we will continue with queen to h5. Why is that so good? Simple. After bishop takes, rook takes, we will castle queenside, so we don't need to be worried about the rook playing or not. And after knight to c6, we will continue with knight f3, pawn takes, for example, and castle queenside. If you want to attack, this is the kind of stuff you want to play, because the black's king is on the center. You already have your king secure. You are creating problems to the h6 pawn. Even you can think about playing the bishop to d3, for example, things like that. And in my opinion, black doesn't have any arguments. So after, for example, this kind of stuff, white will win with violence, because queen to a5, it's done. Even if he plays rook, it's done. This is a very simple way of playing for the win. So we've already seen d5, knight e4, and e6. Now let's jump to c5. And c5, The truth is that I play a lot c5 against d4, and normally most grandmasters or international masters, their approach is just to advance the pawn. I won't be doing that. That's the reason you want to see my content, because I'm suggesting my lines, not the other lines. So I'm here to help you to improve, don't forget. And according to my experience, the best way of creating problems for the blacks Benoni is just to play knight c3. Yes, I'm telling you, it's completely different of the rest of the videos on YouTube. So why is that so good? Simple, my friend. If pawn takes, we will continue with queen takes. And after, for example, knight to c6, the black player will start praying when you play queen to h4. Why is that so good? Simple. We will castle queenside and we will attack with everything we have. So we have central control. We are playing like Scandinavian, but with white. So we have plus a tempo. So this is more aggressive than the Scandinavian. So I like a lot this kind of games. So here, for example, black can continue with d4, probably is the best way of continuing that, and you will be always creating central pressure and you will be always creating threats to your opponent. So for this reason, in my opinion, c5 is complicated to defend. Of course, if you don't want to take any risks, probably you don't want to be here because we want to attack. But okay, I will tell d5 for the players that don't want to take risks. But of course, you won't be having initiative or you won't be creating problems for the black. So this is like a slow game. And for example, here you need to play bishop to f4 or else knight takes, and if bishop takes, the knight will take back. So you need to be careful, in my opinion, according to my experience. Yes, please, knight c3, it's very interesting. And yes, if you want, I can create specific videos for each of these lines that we are talking about, this Trompowsky attack. The Raptor, I have several variations of the Raptor. So this would be an approach. I normally play with rook a2, and you're thinking, what? Rook a2, what the hell? Well, the idea of rook a2 is that it's a prophylactic move, because if black plays b5, you will be able to take, because the knight is protecting the rook. So it's simple. And after that, okay, I think white has arguments, black too. So it isn't an easy game. So don't forget, our approach, knight c3, is interesting. Probably some of the viewers are thinking, okay, yes, you're defending that this is too good for white, but you're assuming that the black's player take the pawn on d4. What if black continues with d5, doing something like the Tarrasch defense? We continue with d4, of course, because we like to attack. And this is the Verezov-Richter or Richter-Verezov attack. So it's considered one of the most aggressive lines playing with d4. So this is interesting, because if pawn takes, we will give check with the bishop first. And after bishop, we can continue with pawn takes. Well, what is that? Simple. If bishop takes, of course, we can take first this queen. And after king takes, we can continue taking first the bishop. And look, a normal move like that. Oh, I want to take back the pawn on c5. Yes, you want, but I won't be giving you this opportunity, because yes, we can play rook d1, but probably it's best to castle queenside. We are giving check, and of course, if the king plays here, we have knight c7 winning material. So this looks very strong for white. After king plays to c8, it looks like this king is dancing. And yeah, I don't know if he should be dancing an entire game. We are playing chess, not other things. So here probably bishop takes, pawn takes, double pawns, double pawns. So this doesn't look very well. After knight d6, this bishop needs to exchange. And here, if you take with the pawn will be overextended. So you don't want to do that. Instead, you want to take with the rook, because you can play b4, c3, a3, and you have a superior position. The material is even, but look at these pawns. They are terrible. They are ugly. So for the black, I think nobody wants to play this kind of stuff. Even because of the fact that the pawn is being already attacked. So knight d7 is forced, and well, I don't know, 92, and if it takes, we can take wherever we want. So we have a lot of potential. And again, if you want to see in more detail these variations, please tell me something in the comments, and I will do more content and create a list about the Trompowsky attack. So we are finishing, and we need to talk about the last line. So our last is g6, and yes, is one of the best, because here I will suggest you a kind of unique way of sorry of continuing this position. Yeah, I look like a crazy guy, I know, but it's true. It's very interesting because, of course, we want to create damages to the black's pawn structure. So first we will, of course, take the knight, and after pawn takes, we need to think a little bit about what does the black player wants to play. If I were playing black, and if I played g6, probably I would be wanting to play bishop g7 and castle kingside. Yeah, looks like a good goal. So what about we play h4? They will be afraid. Some minutes ago, I've won with violence an woman international master. Playing with that. So this is interesting. And I've already won several masters. So FIDE masters and even international masters. So this is interesting. So the thing is, how would you reply if somebody advances h4? And this isn't an easy question to answer. Because, okay, bishop g7 probably is a way of continuing this possession, but after h5, some persons already replied with g5. And yeah, I played g6. If you let me advance my pawns, I will advance my pawns. They will destroy everything in the path. So after bishop to f8, this bishop has played to g, and after to f. So black has lost 2 tempos. So after that, okay, let's continue our game. I don't want to compromise. So I want to play e3 and see what my opponent wants to play. And in my opinion, this is already a slightly superior position for white. Of course, we are assuming g5, but what if f5? Yeah, again, if you want, you can do whatever you want. For example, even the advance looks good. The computers like more the position for black, but in my opinion, you don't need to be worried. You can play this position because black has something like 0.1 or 0.2. So this is interesting. Even pawn takes, you can do play all the variants on official games, because any of these variants has problems. For example, pawn takes, and rook takes, bishop takes, and you are playing a super weird strategic game. So this is playable too. So I enjoy a lot. Probably the most common answer will be h5. And after h5, we will continue with e3. It's always our continuation, e3. And after bishop g7, we need to think again, what are the goals of the black's player. For example, bishop g7, but the diagonal can be completely closed. So is this bishop good on g7? Don't forget one thing. You're playing the Trompowsky, so you will exchange a knight for a bishop. So this means that your opponents will have a pair of bishops. So normally you don't want to play open games, because on open games the player with the pair of bishops will have advantage. So you want to play a closed position and you want to open if you have any advantage. So here, after, for example, bishop to g7, we will continue with knight e2. Again, approaches like knight f4 and later knight to d2 with c4 are always ideas on this Trompowsky. Here, black will continue with castle and we can continue with g4. Why is that? Because probably I'm mad, I don't know, but I like this stuff. If black plays castle too quickly, in my opinion, because of the fact that our king is still on the center and we are playing with white, we can create some problems to the black's player. According to the computers, I evaluated this position with Lila 0, we are winning by 0.4. So it's playable for white. And here, probably h takes g4, and of course we will advance h5. So after that, if this pawn takes, it will be already an advantage for white, because, well, you can take and you're winning, or even you can play different stuff. I will recommend rook takes. It is not the best line, but it's the easiest way of continuing that. Why is this interesting? For example, d5 can be a continuation, and after knight g, we have this kind of ideas. And for example, c6, just to show what are the approaches, we are controlling this square. But the thing is that you can continue the normal way, or you can continue the pretty way. And the pretty way is rook f5. Because if bishop takes rook, knight takes bishop, and we are threatening to take g4 and give checkmate. For example, even if this king goes to h, this will finish on a checkmate, because queen takes, we are threatening to give checkmate, and after, for example, bishop h6, you try to survive, I don't know, we can continue with queen to h4. After king plays here, of course, we take and give checkmate. So these are lines that creates always a lot of problems to the black's player. Of course, here you don't need to take, you can play g5, but after h6, bishop will need to play to h8, and we have a lot of potential. h7, king advances, and the pawns are broken, and we have knight g, threatening a lots of different things. So, for example, after d5, we can continue with bishop d3 to prevent the loss of the pawn, and after knight check, this will be too complicated to defend for black. So, in my opinion, this is easy to win. So, we have been talking about several different ways of winning with the Trompowsky attack. So this Trompowsky attack has a lot of theory, it's normal, and if you want me to do more content about that, I can create, for example, 5 different videos about all the different variations, and probably another one with the sidelines. Please tell me something in the comments, because I want to know your I want to have your feedback. So I hope you enjoy this Trompowsky attack. I will be expecting some games. I hope you win because I have several games with this Trompowsky. Probably could be a good idea too to put here on the channel some of my own games or even Grandmaster games. So I have lots of different ideas. Please tell me something. I want to have your feedback. So for today is everything. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed, please like, and I will be waiting for you tomorrow at the same hour here on Chess Unleashed. So I hope you have a great night, and till tomorrow. Bye bye. Good games.